Hey everybody, welcome back to the Messenger Studios. Live today. It is the third Thursday of the month, and I'm super stoked. Jim, I'm glad to have you back. Mr. Bradford, the Deputy Commanding Fort Knox,
It's
Garrison.
awesome to be back.
Yeah.
Awesome to be back.
Do you miss the trees?
You know what? I miss a lot. Like I said, I miss a lot. I hate to say it. The weather is better down there in Augusta, Georgia. But with that being said, there's something good about being back home and being back on Fort Knox. And, obviously I live in Meade County just like you do.
Yeah.
So it's, it's good in all those respects and stuff. So.
Well, I want to say thank you. We get a lot of compliments today about the content and the direction we're going with the newspaper. I think we've done a lot about bringing it back to the community. Got ribbed a lot, though, because I went Fort Knox and Radcliffe, and I don't want to hear about North Hardin High School, and that's okay. We gave it a shot, and obviously we've come back to the roots at the Meade County Messenger. But one of the things I do not want to let go of is our connection with Fort Knox.
Sure.
And for so many reasons, and you and I have talked about it for probably several years. But I think what's very interesting, though, is we are seeing a lot of interest in coming to Meade County and hanging out in what we have to offer, and our Meade Countyans going and hanging out at Fort Knox as well. There's a lot to offer there going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I tell, well, interesting enough, last week I told, Judge Koch, I said, hey, I'm back, Judge. I need to jump in on all of this Otter Creek State Park stuff. I said, the last 90 days that I've been gone, I've had a great teammate of mine part of that conversation. I said, but I've got to be part of that now.
Yeah.
And I said, quite honestly, as I've said before, Otter Creek State Park touches Fort Knox, and thus it has to be a partner of that.
Yes, it does.
And to your point, we were very fortunate at Fort Knox that it's Bullitt, Hardin, and Meade County. And so we are, we're that partnership has to happen, whether we're talking about school support, recreational opportunities, we were just talking about Otter Creek, or just things like infrastructure and safety and things of that nature. So Judge Koch and I were at Lincoln Trails last week talking about what highways need to have reinforcement of safety or expansion or things of that nature. And then both of us utilizing our legislative processes to try to promote this highway vice that highway.
Yeah.
Now, big, huge decisions that the governor and the legislative process have got to happen, but that's where that relationship comes in and why it becomes so important that we have things like this, but we're part of those conversations across the across the board.
Yeah, I enjoy looking forward to this episode just because, one, I get to catch up with you, but two, just because there's a lot of information that people don't know about our neighbors. And I talk about how many people live in Meade County, but they work on Fort Knox. So, I mean, Fort Knox is a staple to the Meade County community, just as our farmers are, Nucor is, Monument Chemical, our landscaping businesses, our banks, all of that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a huge, if you're a small business owner or if you're a business that deals with government contracts, then you're intimately involved in what's happening.
That's right.
And that's everything from, hey, I have a logging contract in our training area to pull logs because that's what I do as a business, to concrete and gravel, to, hey, I run a plumbing or HVAC or these things. I mean, being an economic engine for the surrounding area and really the region is a huge, powerful tool. At the same time, we have an obligation to our municipal leaders and to our public to say, hey, here's where we're at. All this thing that you're seeing in your news outlet that you're hearing about the government here and the government there,
that's it.
This is the impact of your local government, Fort Knox.
Right.
And we have that obligation to be able to do that and be able to talk what those promotions are, as well as the repercussions that are out there.
Yeah, remember I had Colonel Ritchie on here, and we were talking. Is the Donald gonna come and check out the? I believe Elon was gonna come check out the
that's
gold.
Right.
So this connection, if it was really gonna happen, well, first of all, we would probably know maybe the day of, because nobody's gonna predestine an arrival.
Sure.
But having this type of relationship allows us to be able to communicate these impacts that you hear at the national level. And I appreciate you saying that, because water flows downhill, and eventually, what does that pull into and look like? And I think this is what's so great about this episode. So
yeah, sure. I think there's lots of changes that are happening in the federal government. There's lots of changes that are happening in the Department of Defense. I think. You being in the news business, sometimes there's things that kind of get put up and everybody reads into it, and kind of separating those pieces. But clearly, Fort Knox is going to change on this.
Sure.
What it looks like on the other end, too hard to tell. We've had quite a few folks that have made the decision to retire, resign. That has happened in other federal governments. That's happening inside the Department of Defense, and we are doing all those things that we would do to take care of those long-tenured professionals across the board. What it looks like into the future, again, too early to tell, but we have an obligation to be able to come back and be able, to do that. Now, we're also in the season of just change, right?
Sure.
We're in spring. We obviously just got through some horrible inclement weather, we're all working through that, and an amazing amount of volunteerism across the board. Both, what can we do to help Fort Knox? But at the same time, volunteers at Fort Knox going, hey, helping. City, community, neighborhood,
Super
how
awesome.
can I help you as well? So that's an incredible thing to see, and one of those things that I've seen not just here, but in other places as well. At the end of the day, no matter what our divisiveness is, when we go through something like that, whether it be a tornado or a hurricane, or in this case, a massive amount of flooding and water, people just go, you know what? We need to help.
Humanity kicks in.
That's right. That's right. The ability to help your neighbor is an incredible thing. But we're in spring as well, so happy Easter to everyone out there.
Yeah, thank you.
And so I hope everybody takes an opportunity to participate in that, no matter what your faith or your belief is. With regards to that, we're in the middle of turkey season. We're in the middle of fishing. We're in the middle of gardening and things of all that.
Now,
and a lot of that is happening.
Hopefully, they didn't let all the trout out yet.
Then
they got flooded downstream.
Interesting enough, when I was driving here, I crossed Otter Creek Bridge there, right there and stuff. There were two people in the water fishing. I was like, man, that's where I need to be.
Yeah, right. So, I know.
But no, there's a couple more releases that are planned. If you are a fisherman, if you're a turkey hunter, go to Facebook, type in Fort Knox Natural Resources. It'll pop up. It's a great thing. Obviously, it's more popular during deer season and those 3 weekends that we allow gun hunting in the area than it probably is any other time of the year. But an incredible amount of stuff. Now, we're also doing a lot of other outdoor things. We're in the middle of race season. A lot of communities do those 5Ks and 10Ks and other things of that nature. If you're into those activities, those are open to everybody. If you've never been to one in Fort Knox, a couple of years ago, what we did was we designated races throughout the year, and if you participated in those races, you got a part of your medallion was part of a in-state, so you had to do all races, whether that was a tank or something else of that nature. So a lot of people do that just so they can get it and, they frame it accordingly, I know
well. My kids were talking about it because I got them in cross country last year. I will be walking. My knees just can't take that anymore.
That's right. That's right. You just want the medallion no matter what the time is, for sure.
Get through it.
Yeah. And then, again, you got high school graduation that's coming up. We've got Memorial Day. Memorial Day is really, a huge event for us in the military, for Fort Knox. It's it's an opportunity for us to open up the installation for our historical and traditional families that have been here to go into the training area and make, take care, spend a little bit of time with their loved ones that are buried mainly in the northern portion up around Bullitt County and stuff, but there's some here in the southern part as well. And then when we kind of look a little bit further down, Memorial Day and the start of May starts cadet summer training.
Yeah, coming around.
So
they're actually starting early this year.
Well, they are starting early, but our family days and graduations are actually going to start post 4th of July this weekend.
Oh no!
So for those of you that use 1638 and Highway 60 to get back and forth to work, or you just use it as an artery to get into Louisville every now and then. Here in about 5 weeks, you'll start to see a little bit more traffic from a military standpoint that is getting into that. And then, I can't imagine that Colonel Ritchie and others that have been here while I was gone didn't talk about the Army's 250th birthday on the 14th of, June. So we'll do our community partnership dinner on the 13th. The 14th is also going to be a big day. With the Patton Museum and the Patton Foundation there.
AUSA
as well.
will be involved in. We're working on the finalization for that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, just like all communities, flowers start to bloom, the birds and the bees, and people start to go, hey, well, we're doing this parade, we're doing this event, and so forth. And Fort Knox is no different in that.
Well, and it's exciting because, you don't have to go far to find something between our churches here and on Fort Knox. The churches are doing stuff, MWR is doing stuff, so you can easily get involved in those things. So just like I said, my kids were, hounding me. They saw that tank last year, and they're like, Dad, how do we do that? And I was like,
absolutely.
Well, you'd only get one part of it. You can't get it all now because we had to start at the beginning of the year.
Right.
So they're excited to get involved in some of that stuff. And between our county and Fort Knox, there really is a lot of stuff. And the water park at Fort Knox, you've got the, Buttermilk Falls here. There's all kinds of stuff to get into. I know that they're very busy at the water park in the summertime there. But.
Yeah, so the water park there, again, open to everybody, get access to the installation, open thing. But, we several years ago, so this is well before kind of COVID and before I even got here as a transplant, the focus of the water park was really toward younger kids and tweens. And so, they made a conscious decision from a business standpoint, but from a recreation standpoint. Yeah. Hey, if you're a teenager and you're a parent of a teenager, then you can go to E-Town or you can go to Louisville. We're going to focus on the mom and dad that their kid is the age of the wave pool, lower levels, got splashes, things of that nature. But we really orient it toward that elementary school and not that middle school and high school down. Yeah. And it is immensely popular. That opens up on Memorial Day weekend, runs through Labor Day. And there are times where there are people waiting in line. People got to leave before people get in, just from a safety standpoint. But really popular as we go through that, just like there is with disc golf, mountain biking, road biking, golf, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So let's peel the onion back a little bit. Let's go into the national. What are some of the impacts? You'd mentioned that a lot of folks had taken some of the retirements. So if some people took that deal, they're walking off the jobs. That means there's gonna be some jobs open, right? So that means the USA Jobs. How does that look in the future of Fort Knox? Because, when you do have a loss, exodus of those, sometimes it can backlog the process to get on. So has there been any discussions about that and what might be available coming up that we could expect to see? We may not expand number of jobs, but there will be some vacancies if you've been longing for government employment.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. So, it's multifaceted. Clearly the administration, the Department of Defense is kind of relooking, hey, here's what we want our departments to look like of that. They have offered some incentives for folks to resign, retire, and do other things of that nature, all volunteerism with respect to that. And then as the Department of Defense kind of restructures and we look at services and programs, then we're going to have to take a much harder look at what that looks like. There's no changes today. How you enter the post is how you enter the post, minus trusted traveler. And I'll talk a little
Real
bit
ID.
about with that real ID at the state and really at the federal level. That is. That is a part of that. Your ability to get an ID card, your ability to partake in those programs that we just talked about, recreational or whatever, is still the same. What is probably going to change is hey, are we going to leverage AI and IT technologies and things online because it's quicker, it's easier, it's more efficient? Or are we going to have more front door services like we've had in the years past? We learned a lot from COVID. The reality is we didn't have things like Zoom and Teams and other things of that nature. We didn't leverage telehealth on the medical side. Those are all byproducts, good, bad, or indifferent, depending on what your viewpoint is. The reality is we leverage those today. What do we want to do to increase that capability in regards to that? We're in a return to work. One of the things, again, that the president put in his executive order is if you're a government employee, you're back into a government building. We're having to relook and review how we are spending our money with respect to that. My spouse is a perfect example of that. For a number of years, she was a remote worker on Fort Knox, went in a couple of times during the week. Just to make sure that she was still vertical and not not an avatar, so to speak. But now she's 5 days a week back into the office. So that changes our services toward those professionals that work in those buildings now as well.
The when you look at all of those individuals coming back, what did we have any problems that all the computers turned on at the same time and now we're pulling a whole bunch of gigawatts, how did that play out for you guys in that start back up?
So, interestingly enough, I don't think anything on the IT side really changed. Accessing government systems, whether you're doing it from afar, you're doing it inside the installation, you're still accessing it.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any issues. Interestingly enough, probably the biggest thing was okay, I've got 200 employees. Are there 200 desks and 200 chairs?
Right.
And how much government stuff did you take home with you when we allowed you to go to remote work?
Who kept good files and who didn't?
Right. You took a monitor. Okay, you got to bring your monitor back. You took a keyboard, a CAC reader, all those things. Did you take your comfy chair that the government purchased and took it home? Well, if so,
I did not.
I need you to bring it back.
I did not,
Exactly. I did not.
Because my chair at home is better than the one I had at work.
Right. And the reality is people changed as well. So now I have a reasonable accommodation. I've got to work through those, those reasonable, accommodations.
Sure.
The human nature of, okay, it's been a while since I've gotten up, gotten dressed professionally, driven home, waited to get through the front gate, figuring that back out. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like we were remote working for 10 years and I forgot all of that. But was it a little dusty? It absolutely was in the Brandford house,
I bet,
right?
yeah.
Okay, what am I wearing tomorrow? Because that was different in remote work than it was to, here. Lunch, getting through the lines, managing that. But not very, not very difficult.
Well, and now that you're back to work, I mean, you're on a podcast with the coolest newspaper in all of Meade County, right? So, no, I'm just kidding. Well, I think it's exciting.
The answer to your question is yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's exciting. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. You just have to, first you can come to the messerky.com, where all the news that's the news across the Meade County nation is right there. And, just stay tuned. We'll try to keep that up to date. And then, Jim, our community calendar is growing in the newspaper. A lot of activities. We throw in a lot of Fort Knox activities on there. And that now took up more than a half page of things. So when people say there's nothing to do in Meade County,
yeah, oh, absolutely,
and Fort Knox, I beg to differ. Have you grabbed the messenger?
Yeah, sure, no, absolutely. And as we were talking a little bit off the air, I think one of the things we've got to figure out is how do we recognize these great private organizations,
Yes.
no matter what they are, to get them a little bit of recognition, but more importantly, to go, hey, you know what? I'm interested in that. Every community's got a Boy Scouts and a Girl Scouts. Every community has got a Red Cross or something that is
right.
there. But to your point, I think in today or this week's paper, you've got a great article on the front page and stuff about Sierra House.
Yep.
We have people that are maybe be hugely interested in that.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's aspects on Fort Knox that we do that are associated with rehabilitation, family advocacy, those things that aren't necessarily like Sierra House, but touch that periphery of, hey, we can overcome.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could nest them together?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I think the power of this podcast and having coordination with Fort Knox, I think it makes it to be. Because if I'm new and I come here from Fort Carson, Colorado, I could go, oh, wow, that's interesting. Let me go out and see if that's something that interests me, or my kids are absolutely part of this. I want to be part of that too.
Yeah. Well, from myself and our team, we're super thankful to have the relationship we do with Fort Knox. We do our due diligence to make sure that what we put in the paper is balanced, informative. Try to take out a lot of the opinions because we want to keep our place. But I'll tell you, I just did a delivery run today because Thursday's my delivery run. I take Liam to speech, and before we go there, I drop it off, and then I take him back to school. And I only pulled, I think it was 18 papers off the rack, but we're delivering 400. We used to only deliver 250. We deliver 400. And they go out across from the commissary and the PX, and about every week there's not very many left. And so that means that these organizations that are nested, if you're not nested, not to plug myself, but we are communicating with the community. People still love a newspaper, and whether you want to do it in digital format or on print, you can do it, and you can grab one there on Fort Knox.
Sure. No, I think that everybody wants to know what's happening around them. Yeah. They may have an app that talks about the craziest and wildest things, but people want to know what's happening in their community, on post or off post. Yeah. That's just the human nature of it, and I think that's where the power of all of these things come into play.
Well, and I think so. Never lose sight of the fact that a newspaper can still be the single source. It's nice to have all these social media platforms. But when you're trying to get a one area solution, I think that's where the power of the newspaper pulls together as well. And we're super thankful to have that relationship. Yeah. So listen, if you're a Meade County and you are listening in, I'm telling you, our neighbors are awesome here at Fort Knox. Mr. Bradford does an amazing job connecting all the community. I give you equivalent to like the city manager. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like, you could be the mayor, that's one thing, but the city manager is a guy that's nugging and getting the work done in the background.
That's right. Yeah, you have to have continuity as across all of those elected officials and stuff, and that's what we try to do.
Well, a reminder, the Army Reserve birthday is next week on the 23rd.
Absolutely.
The Association of the United States Army is hosting a luncheon. We've got Sergeant Major Basham is going to be giving a speech there at Colvin Community Center in Radcliffe. So if you're a community sponsor, if you're a soldier, you want to get involved in your relationship, if you're a citizen, a veteran, and you want to come and celebrate the Army Reserve birthday, come join the Association of the United States Army at Colvin Community Center. AUSA is probably, that's the Army's association. And like many others on Fort Knox, I think that we are all here to do the same thing. Support one another, our community, and give a foundation of strength. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Mr. Bradford, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Everybody have a happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Good Friday tomorrow.
Absolutely.